Welcome back, all you kings, queens, and in-betweens, to another special here on the channel, hosted by the This Week in Weeb podcast. And I, once again, am joined by Felty Bear, Miguel.
I don't think everyone's ever actually called me Felty Bear, except for at a convention when somebody said to us once they recognized me and they recognized my wife, and they said, "Oh, you guys are Felty Bear." I'm like, well, yes, we are Felty Bear, but it was just weird to be called out as a brand recognition.
But you got to rep the company. You got to have the name out there so it sticks in the brain.
I think once we become a bit more well-known and a bit more acknowledged throughout the community, then we'll start getting the stickers, we'll do everything else. We do have hoodies that were a gift to us, which we definitely appreciate. But for now, it's nice being more of a under-the-radar kind of promotional thing.
You're the underground Instagram account.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, you got to get special invitations, and it moves all the time. But we are back with an update to our BL, or Boys Love, episode that we talked about, and that was
go ahead.
Good. No, go ahead.
I was like, who else to speak about boy love than two cishet men?
Yes, that is the perfect demographic that Boy Love is going for. I mean, that's my understanding.
I mean, I think this kind of also shows the power of boy love. How while we may not be the main demographic they were shooting for, I became a huge fan of it.
Absolutely, especially these two series. I think these two series were really good, and as of right now, I am 9 episodes into Given, which is towards the end. I think there's 11 episodes.
Yes.
And had the big pivotal moment that Miguel was talking about in the last episode, and we just watched it, so we're going to be able to talk about it. And then I'm finished with Love Stage. I have not watched the OVA, but I don't think the OVA's on Crunchyroll.
No, I don't think the OVA. I haven't even watched the OVA yet, so I can't speak on that one just yet. But Given, I think it kind of just goes more, and we'll get into it in more detail in a bit, but it definitely shows how certain feelings, certain ideas, certain emotions give no hex at all about gender preference or anything. It's definitely something of, you're gonna feel this, and you're gonna feel this deep within you. That sounds highly inappropriate.
Absolutely. I mean, that seems like a innuendo that might be in a BL series, honestly.
Happy accidents. What are you going to do?
So I'm going to start off with the heavier of the two. I'm going to start off with Given, I think.
Okay.
Because A, it's fresher in my mind because we just finished it. And B, I think there's a little bit more to talk about.
Yes.
So going into Given, we just had the pivotal moment from episode 9. And
the song episode.
Yeah. And if you haven't watched our first episode with all the stuff that we talked about on that, and you haven't watched this show, I'd recommend you go out and check it out. It's on Crunchyroll. I am at the very least going to be talking about stuff through episode 9, so that stuff will be talked about in this, so just be aware of that.
Yes.
That there's spoilers.
If you haven't watched
9.
it yet and are planning on it, definitely be mindful of what we're going to be discussing at this time. If you have watched it, be mindful of any comments, as like I said, Jeremy is currently up to 9. We just finished 9.
Yes. So if you would like to watch it, then just pause this, go into a different tab, and
then
watch it on Crunchyroll. Watch 9 episodes of Given, and then come back to this immediately.
Yep.
All in one sitting, so you don't miss anything.
Don't get that FOMO.
But I think that this show did not need to be a BL show for it to tell the story that it's telling. I don't have a problem with it being a BL show, but I don't think this is a BL show first and foremost.
Correct.
I think this is one that could be told with a female character in the main character slot or a female character in the Mifune's spot, and it would be exactly the same. And I don't think there's really much that needs to make it unique being a BL show.
This particular series, I think it's great. It's one that I had touched upon in the beginning, which is they have this storyline, they have this plot set up, and it's amazing and it's deep, and it completely doesn't just center around the fact that it's BL. BL is obviously a part of it, something you can't deny when you see the characters, but it doesn't make it the main pivotal point of the plot. And I think that's important because it's, for me as someone who's a cishet man, I can say that not making it the specific point of plot definitely makes it easier for me to kind of relate to and understand, because I know those feelings of heartbreak and loss and everything. But if they made it specifically regarding the two male characters and how they are being male characters, well, then I'm going to be a bit lost. But I think it's, like you said, it's such a great plot, such a great story that everyone should watch. Even if you're not into BL or it's not your forte, and this definitely wasn't mine when I got into it, it's definitely one of those series that I highly regard as a great anime.
Contrasting it with Love Stage is a BL show.
Yeah, that's
and it could not be really told if it was not a BL show.
If you're not open-minded enough to try something different like a BL, something that's BL heavy, then you might not have the best time with Love Stage. Love Stage is definitely a bit more sillier and a bit more, romantic, but it's definitely very like, by the way, you're going to see these two guys do a lot of stuff together.
They don't get particularly graphic because they have this thing, at least the version I saw, I don't know if there's a different version, but like they do this starry blue background, and when they're doing stuff, it like their skin becomes the same color as the background.
Yeah.
So you can see hands moving and things inserting, but like not in a way that's graphic.
There's another YouTuber online who talks about hentais a lot. I think it's Elaine Tai, I think. Great YouTuber. I definitely love all her stuff. She definitely makes mention about how certain hentais, they will kind of just do like the bright white explosion for the very, very risque graphic parts. And I think this is their version of that without getting that directly with it.
Yeah, because it doesn't take you out of the scene as much than when they have like a big sensor shining light or something. Because this one, it's like, oh, it's artsy.
Now it's romantic. It's metaphorical. They're becoming one with each other in the world.
Yeah, that whole thing. But I mean, you do kind of have to be open to the whole BL idea in order for you to watch that show. If it's going to make you uncomfortable, you're not going to be able to get away with it with that.
Yeah. And again, we discussed last time the whole consent thing as well, which you've now seen.
And that pops up a couple more times.
Exactly.
It's like even beyond where I was.
I told you there were more scenes like that, and there were definitely scenes that got a bit more intense, and it's definitely uncomfortable at the first time.
There was a scene later on, I think it was at the end of the second to last episode going into the last episode, was the whole scene when he encounters the guys, Azumi encounters the guys in the construction site. Oh. And they're like, we're going to see if you're a boy or a girl. It's like, what is this?
I didn't know Japan was like that.
What source material is this?
Apparently, if you are a pretty or feminine feature enough male, you have to be scared that other horrible men are going to try and force you to prove it.
Yeah, they like tackle him, they pull up his shirt, see that he's a male, but really he's got his head to the side doing that Azumi pose that he does constantly where he's like kind of crying and he has this like finger near his mouth and he's like, eh. And then they're like, it's close enough. They're like, I'm going to try it out. It's like, what is this?
Yeah, it's a very, very problematic anime as a whole. But as we discussed, unfortunately, that's something that kind of goes with BL. So again, if you're not a fan of BL and understand that these problematic, unfortunate things go along with it, you're going to have even a worse time with this anime.
And also, like we talked about last episode, there's some of that stuff in Yuri too. Yuri does a lot of the same stuff.
Oh man.
I haven't seen that happen in a Yuri series yet, where it's outside of the relationship and there's that kind of a scene. And I think the thing that caught me off guard with Love Stage is it was happening at the end of the second to last episode, and that's what the episode ended on. And then I was like, we're going into the last episode with this.
We're going to keep it up to the end.
Yeah, this is the note that we want to end on. And yeah, I mean, it gets resolved, obviously. I do like the fact that Azumi resolved it himself. He kicks the one guy in the nuts.
Yes.
And then he like hits the other ones with a bag and like whatever.
He wasn't going to wait to be a little damsel in distress.
He gets away and is able to save himself from that situation before bumping into his friend. But I just thought it was weird that that's what our last episode was going to start off on.
Now that you've seen the entire series, do you think that part, that little mini story, that happening kind of situation, could that have been taken out and not taken anything away from the series as a whole?
I don't think it was necessary. I don't think it added anything.
Yeah.
The only thing that it could have added to in a series that might have had more time, and I also don't know how this differs from the manga in terms of timing, because they do have a tendency sometimes to jump forward a plot point because they want to close out the season that they know they're getting with a resolution.
Okay.
So I don't know if the resolution we get at the end of the last episode of them essentially being together and being with each other is a resolution to that chapter or not. I don't know if they bump that forward. Okay. I could see them bumping that forward and there being a little bit more breathing room in between the incidents, but I feel like in a show that wants to expand a little bit more, because in this one there's 4 manga volumes that haven't been adapted in the first season and probably never will. And maybe it goes into his insecurity, because earlier on in a couple episodes earlier, I don't remember exactly which episode, he realizes that he thinks he does love
the actor guy.
Ryoma.
Okay, yes.
He realizes he loves Ryoma, and there's this whole misunderstanding. He was like, oh, I love you like a brother or blah, blah, whatever, but that's not neither here nor there. But he realizes he loves him. He starts buying all his merch, and then the following episode, he starts buying all of this BL stuff. He starts buying BL manga and all this stuff. He's getting all these packages and everything delivered to the house, and he's doing research, and the manager, like the parent figure, that's the secondary
guy,
parent, comes in and is like, what the hell are you doing? Why do you have all of this BL stuff?
Doing research.
Yeah, he was like reading up all night. He had like bloodshot eyes and everything, and he's like, I want to ask you something, but I don't know if I can ask you. He's like, you can ask me, I'll give you an answer. He's like,
God.
Does it hurt when a man's with a man? And he's like, I mean, it depends. He's like, I don't want to tell him that it doesn't. He like inner monologue. The guy's like, I don't want to tell him that it doesn't because then I'm like lying to him and misleading him. And he responds with, it depends. And he's like, because in this manga, it doesn't hurt. And they have a really good time. But in this manga, they say that it hurts. And so he has this like insecurity about being with a guy.
He wants to show, you know what? I think they're, in that specific regard, they're adapting the insecurities I think people have when they're going to be with a partner who may have more experience with them, or maybe if they don't have more experience, they just want to be a good partner. And like, am I going to kiss them the right way? Am I going to, make love to them the right way? Am I going to do this the right way? And he's trying to find out more to show off that he's not as naive as he is. Now, the question I have for you is, do you think that the butler was gay as well?
I was really getting that impression, but they never really confirm it because he was acting like he had knowledge in the way that he answers that question eventually about like, it depends on how big he is, how experienced they are, and all that kind of thing. It sounds like he has experience, and I also like the fact that they automatically know that Azumi is going to be the bottom. It's just immediately
he's what you call an alpha bottom. Like he's gonna that's. I think for me, what my takeaway was from that particular scene, now that you're reminding me, is that the butler was kind of making, I think, general assumptions, because I think first time sex for anyone can be potentially, can hurt, can be uncomfortable. And it's exactly what he said. It depends. It depends if you guys go easy, if you take your time, as it would with a female or female gendered partner or identifying, as well as a male, which is going to be the same thing. Like, it depends how you're going to go about it. I do like that the butler at no point, to my recollection, I could be wrong, you saw it more reason than I have, judges him at any point on it. He's like, wait, what do you mean, guy? He's like, oh yeah, well, you gotta just be careful, take it easy, go slow.
Azumi's the only one who really, Azumi and Ryoma are really the only one that judged themselves on being with another man, because Ryoma was, up until that point, someone who had been with women, and he assumed the person that he was in love with was a woman.
Well, was a 10-year-old little girl.
Well, it was an 8-year-old. But when he showed up, and not only was he not an 8-year-old, but he was also not a woman.
Yeah, a lot of surprises everywhere. Yeah,
it was like he was doubly surprised. But he also got over it really quick.
Yeah.
I feel like coming at it from people who, again, are not the intended demographic, I feel like we have a tendency, and I've displayed that already, of being like, hey, this didn't need to be BL, or this could equate to something else. And when you were just saying, like, you equate it for a first time relationship stuff, somebody who watches this as a homosexual male, who I'm not even sure is necessarily the target demographic. I feel like it's women is the target demographic for BL.
In my conversations with people in the anime world and everything else, it does seem that there are more females who are into BL than actual males. Same thing, like if you want to do the grown-up version, I believe let me rephrase that. I have an idea that there's almost as many women as there are men who watch gay porn, just because it's something like, now obviously straight males probably not the demographic, but even just out of curiosity, they'll probably watch or anything else, fine. But it's women and, gay men who watch it more. Same thing with BL. You're going to have many women, girls kind of learn about themselves who are into like the whole BL and yaoi aspect more than straight males, which is why you usually see it's usually young women who will cosplay as a lot of the favorite characters from BL. I can't tell you how many times I was like, what school are they from? When I would go to old conventions back in the day and I see a whole bunch of, like, obviously women, young girls in like very neat school uniforms and like different hair. And I'm like, what anime is this? I don't know. And I was like, and why are they looking like guys? And then fast forward, like, oh, they're Oran Host Club. And it's always been women and young girls who cosplay Oran Host Club. You don't really see many guys who do that.
No, because it doesn't recognize immediately as cosplay, I feel like, if guys do it. But if women do it, it immediately recognizes as cosplay.
But you would think and again, now just making silly, ridiculous assumptions, but you would think that if there is a gay male or a young gay male who enjoys this show or enjoys the BL aspect or anything else, they might cosplay that because I like this character, I like the story, I'm gonna get the right jacket, get the right wig. But that's something I mainly see young women and young girls cosplaying characters from BL.
The thing that makes me believe that the target demographic is women rather than male is the fact that they have all of that consent stuff in it, because I feel like it fetishizes it. It further fetishizes it. So somebody who typically would be watching BL is going in there going like, I'm watching a ecchi, fetishy thing. And they're going in there for a certain mood that they want to get out of it. And yes, I would imagine gay and bi men would watch this and go like, I also want to get that kind of mood out of it. But they also feel like would be looking for more of a representation factor in it. Like us looking at it, we're not looking to find representation in these characters because we know we don't relate to them. So that's not something that we're going to get out. We're looking at it at a lens that's, oh, well, what can this equate to what we understand in our experience? So that's obviously been what this episode and the previous episode have been talking about. But somebody who comes at it from a member of the LGBTQAI plus perspectives is probably looking for, I want my experience to be represented in the show. So something like Love Stage does it in a way that is almost better at that because it talks about some things that are practical. Like these are practical things. Does it hurt? Is a practical thought that I'm sure a lot of people would have leading into potentially having that first experience, where Given, at least so far, doesn't address those kind of things. They're just telling a story, and the character's orientation doesn't necessarily matter.
Exactly. In that regard, I think you're absolutely right, because I, as a viewer, definitely could, I always forget the difference between sympathize and empathize, but one of those eyes.
Empathize is the one where you ingrain understand it from someone else, and sympathize is when you feel bad for someone else. Okay. Is so my understanding.
I empathize with the characters a bit more in Given because like I said, I know what it's like to lose someone. I know what it's like to have your heart broken. I know what it's like to have that anxiety of liking someone but unsure how to explain it. Those are things that I know very well. When you see them, like you said, regardless of gender, I'm like, oh wow, that hits. Love Stage was definitely one I watched more just because it was funny. It was interesting. The characters are definitely much more comedic and all over the place, and what they had there was like, okay, well, I have nothing to say on that, but sure, let's go along with it and just kind of keep going. I think it also shows the very wide range of BL. I mean, again, these were two of my first introduction to PL anime, and that's a pretty wide range.
Yeah, there were definitely wide range of types, the amount of content that they're willing to put into them. I think it's also based on the appeal that they're looking for. Like something like Yuri on Ice. Yuri on Ice was explicit in connotation, but not explicit in content.
Oh man, Yuri is one of those that got me so mad. I love Yuri on Ice, but it got me so mad.
Well, I mean, it's like Blue Balls, the anime. But they were very explicit on what the message was that they were trying to get across and things like that. And I mean, it had amazing aspects. It looked amazing. Oh, yeah. The skating segments were amazing. Like some of the best competition anime stuff that I've ever seen. But
we can go into Yuri on Ice another day, but I think Yuri on Ice is essentially the supernatural of BL animes, where it's going to imply it extremely heavily, but we're not going to just say it. Like, why? You can say it, guys. It's fine. No, it doesn't change anything. Just say it. Like, no, we're not going to say it.
Destiel is canon. Just look at the Spanish dub. But something like that it had a story to tell, and there was a BL element to it. And so Given also there's something to tell, and there's a BL element to it. I think Given is further on the scale of implication versus content, at least so far. Though
you just saw something.
I did.
And they're just straight out doing it.
Yeah.
Well, not doing it, but
not doing it yet.
They are very clearly saying we are two male people who love each other, and we're going to show physical affection towards each other.
They have finally gotten that far. Touching on one last point about love stage before we move off it. I know we said we were going to talk about...
we did reverse.
We said we were going to talk about Given first, but I feel like love stage is a little bit easier to get out of the way.
That's very true, yeah.
So the part that I was talking about with that scene at the end of this penultimate episode and leading into the final episode, I feel like if there was breathing room in between to... The reason why I brought up the does it hurt thing is he had anxiety of being with another man. And he had not only physical anxiety from like, is it going to hurt? But he also had a mental anxiety of like, can I feel this way for another man or another boy?
Yeah.
And he had this ingrained in him, and then he has that kind of an experience. And in an anime that had more time to breathe, what would happen, I feel, with that kind of a scene is it would further entrench that anxiety and make it difficult for him to come across the physical aspect
because of the mental
being
blocks
with Ryoma. Yeah, because he already had anxiety there, and now he had a traumatic experience associated with another man touching him and things like that.
Man.
And I don't think this show needed the scene because it didn't give it weight.
Exactly. I hear what you're saying. I think you're right. I think considering the anxiety he had already, both the mental anxiety and like even like thinking about the physical anxiety of performing, I think once you added that scene into it, logistically you think, oh man, it's gonna be another layer to it. But it's not. It's just like, okay, well, I got myself out of it. I'm moving forward. Could that be metaphorical of him pushing through that anxiety? Potentially. But again, it's something that we did.
Half an episode, man.
Exactly. Yeah, we didn't need that scene. That just would have made this whole series a little less problematic. Not gone, just a little less.
When I saw that we were ending the second to last episode in the scene, like just getting started, I'm like, okay, so we're starting the last episode with this scene. I had two thoughts. One, it's just going to happen and be forgotten about. Or two, I'm not getting an ending to the show because my fear was they planned on having a second season, and just like every other
anime,
every other primarily Yuri or BL series, it's
really?
not getting a second season.
That's a common thing?
It seems like a common thing. Bloom and Hue didn't get a second season. Citrus didn't get a second season. And it seems like a common thing for a lot of those genres.
Yeah.
And I was worried that we were going to end the season having them expect to get another season and not conclude it and not get us to a place, which is why I'm saying maybe they cheated that event up. I don't know. I'd have to look into the manga. But those are my thoughts going in. I'm like, we're either not giving this weight at all, meaning it's not necessary, or we're not getting a conclusion. We got a conclusion, but they didn't give it weight. So it was one. It was had to be one or the other because there wasn't going to be enough time to address it and give it the right amount of weight.
Before we jump back into Given, did the brother end up staying your favorite character of the series?
I think so. I don't know if he would have been if I got more time with him. I don't know if he was my favorite character by the end.
Okay, so
I think my favorite character was the manager guy.
Oh, the butler guy?
Yeah.
The manager butler?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he ended up being my favorite character because I liked seeing the different sides of him. I liked when the brother was freaking out on what was happening with Izumi. He looks up where he was. He figures out where he was, and he just closes his laptop. He's with a friend.
Yeah.
And he just lets him live his life.
Yeah.
And there was like a journey from him too. I really liked the episode that was, I think it was called Men's Style. There was an episode where it was like a play off of those How Did They Get Here things from VH1.
Yes.
And they were like telling the story
and
like through kind of like through like footage and stuff like that. And that really gets you to know that character more because
and why he's so dedicated to the family and everything. Yeah.
I enjoyed that episode. It also kind of stepped out of the format of the other episodes. It would cut into those scenes and then it would cut into regular scenes here and there.
Was the butler, I might be remembering this wrong, was the butler homeless?
Yeah, he was like out on the street.
Yeah.
And they helped him. And
it's crazy
he was
anime,
just dedicated
man. This
to
is
them.
Crazy anime.
Yeah, it had a lot of good moments to it. I enjoyed watching it. I was a little mixed on at the end when he was running to Ryoma's place and he gets the vision of Lala Lulu.
Okay.
And she's like, so like you're going, like you're moving on, and he's like, yeah, and she's like, give it your best, and I'll see you again someday. And it was like, it kind of was weird because like you have to give up something to move on. Is it like give up childish things to become an adult?
That was my thing, which is like by entering this relationship, by entering specifically this like gay relationship with Ryoma and kind of moving forward his life, both kind of trying to see what his next step is going to be professionally or anything else. He does kind of stop being the kid who's just in like the manga anime club after school and that's it. He's like, okay, I'm going to try new things that are scary, that are unknown, and I'm going to just go for it. So I think that little scene was the scene of him kind of formally, very clearly on the nose saying goodbye to, you know, things from his childhood that were of comfort to him.
I don't think you necessarily have to do that. I think that's why
I think we're evidence of that.
Yeah, that's why it hit weird when I was like, you don't have to give up childish things to go be an adult. Like if talking to Lala Lulu in your head or going through your dreams or things like that, they had a dream sequence where he almost went with the bad one versus her and things like that to represent him like kind of getting darker and things like that. But you don't have to give up that stuff. If that's something that gives you comfort and gives you guidance, you can still find that even though you're in a relationship.
Absolutely. I mean,
I guess you can't just be in a one-sided dedicated relationship to a fictional character, but
no, I agree with you. I mean, I think, like I said, you and I are both evidence of the fact that you don't want to give up what are considered by society considered to be childish things, like, and you can take it along with you. I think it was more the fact that his, for lack of a better word, dependence on Lala Lulu was what kept him from moving forward in his life emotionally, in his job or anything else, because he was very stagnant there, and he was okay because that was like his security blanket and kind of kept him there. Now that he's letting go, maybe he won't forget it. He'll still have his stuff and everything, but he now is not going to just be tied to that and only that. Now he's going to try new things. So in that regard, I do get it. If you have something that is whatever it is, but it's holding you back.
Crutch.
Exactly. Yeah. He's saying goodbye to that crutch to move forward.
So overall, I think the show was good. I'd recommend it.
Give it a BL rating of how many fade into the backgrounds out of 5?
I will say 4.
Oh, that's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I enjoyed it. I like the comedic elements. I like that there were other aspects outside of just constantly talking about the relationship all the time, where that wasn't always the dedication of inner monologue. And I think there's stuff here for everybody, as long as you're not uncomfortable by the content, the physical
with problematic,
content.
almost yaoi thing. Yeah, you'll be fine.
Moving on from Love Stage, moving into Given,
Back
a little
into
bit
Given.
more,
Oh,
a little bit more in depth. I feel like this show is a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. I also found out that my prediction is wrong. That
I was so excited to have you see that.
My prediction was wrong that Lip Ring is not in love with the main character.
He's, in a lot of ways, he's not in love with anyone, but he will absolutely bang them. Like, he is down to clown with everybody, but it doesn't make him a bad guy. And that's what was one of the things that I enjoyed about his character, is that he is sincerely nice. He cares about his friends, he cares about his band, but, you know, in terms of relationships, he's gonna just, he's a very free spirit.
He has a fairly high emotional intelligence. Like, he knows what's going on without things being said, and he can read people well. Like, there was a handful of times where he was like, I want to give them time, or like, hey, step outside with me, or I'm going to give him a ride home and you give him a ride home, and like kind of pulling strings from behind the scenes with the help of long-haired guy. I don't remember their name.
That's not just Lip Ring and long-haired guy.
Help of long-haired guy to kind of make sure that their band stays together, even though there's this emotional turmoil going on between the main character and Mifune, right? Mafiu. And I appreciated seeing that episode where they get into Lip Ring's whole deal with him and his live-in boyfriend
guy.
Partner. Who the person who lives with him,
who is also dating other people apparently, just like he is.
It seems like there's some bitterness on Lip Ring's part, where he's like, oh, just go tell your violin boyfriend or whatever, and the other guy's like, oh, I just like his pretty face or whatever. There's an interesting dynamic there that I'm assuming they'll dive into, probably outside of the series. It'll probably be beyond the series wherever it ends.
I don't want to spoil anything for you, but we get more insight into Lip Ring in the next few episodes.
Okay, that's good. I'm excited for that, because I like that character, and I like the dynamic between all of them. Even him with his school friends that always want to play basketball all the time, and they kind of feeling a little left behind because he's spending a lot of more time with the band members and his object of affection.
I think that goes into the writing of the anime itself, because normally secondary or tertiary characters are kind of forgotten about, but these are guys and they show like, oh hey, it's those guys again, and you feel bad for them a little bit. You think, oh yeah, he is kind of ignorant, but they're always like, hey, do you want to go today? They're always trying to be there, and it's sweet and it's nice, and it kind of helps develop the world a bit more of this anime.
Yeah, like grounding it outside of the emotional stakes.
Exactly.
And we do find out that one of the big things that's can't remember his name. Mifune?
Mafu. Isn't it Mafu? All right, we're going to ask the
double check his name.
So yeah, it's Mafuyu, technically. Mafuyu, Mafuyu.
Okay, Mafu. The reason why he kind of is the way that he is his first love and his childhood friend, he was his first relationship, and that relationship ended in his childhood friend and first love killing himself.
Yeah.
And the guitar used to belong to him, and the last thing that he had as an interaction with him was a fight, which culminated in him saying, "Would you die for me?"
Yeah.
And that was the last thing he said to him before he found him dead. And that stuck with him. And throughout the first 8 episodes, you get a lot of these monologues where he's talking about the fact that he doesn't feel things and other people feel things, and he doesn't understand why he doesn't feel things, or he doesn't understand why anybody would be able to feel these things. And originally I'm like, oh, is this going to be something about like a romance or something?
Yeah.
Or is it just something where as a personality type, this is something that's always been a stumbling block for him? But it wasn't, because we see in flashbacks, he gets into an argument, he gets angry, he gets happy, he feels other emotions.
Yeah. He is a little more subdued in general, but when we meet him, he's like almost like negative subdued. He's just going through the motion of things to exist.
Yeah, he's just a blank slate.
Yeah.
And once you get to episode 9 and you get to the scene where they're about to perform, and they go into this performance thinking that he hasn't written any lyrics to the song that they were going to perform, and they're like, oh, we're going to do the la-las. Yeah, we're just going to do the la-las. We're just going to do instrumental stuff, and we won't do vocals. And the music starts, and he starts singing.
Holy crap.
And the song's in Japanese, regardless of which one you are, but if you watch it in Japanese, you can get the subtitles. If you watch it in English, you can't get the subtitles. But if you watch it and get the subtitles, the song is entirely about his former relationship and trying to move past it and close the door and address the feelings that he has lingering from what happened, and making it so it's no longer a stumbling block for him going forward. And you kind of make that connection that the reason why he doesn't feel things is he doesn't feel like he should be able to feel things after that. Man.
The one huge thing, there's a lot of things that I took away from this anime, but what I enjoyed about it, and it was a big surprise to me, was the fact that without saying it directly, it does touch upon very deeply on just mental health. Like I can't, and I hope I never have to, kind of imagine what it's like to have an argument with your partner where you tell them that they should kill themselves or anything else, fine, and then find out that they did. The emotional trauma that causes would make anyone shut down and just say, I'm done. And the fact that they kind of held on to that aspect of it to get this far, you kind of see Mafu going through all these things and saying these things. At some point, I know I got annoyed with him. I'm like, doesn't he have more to add to this conversation? Can he express some happiness? Like, he's having a good time. He seems to be enjoying these things. Why can't he just be happy about it? What's going on? And then you find out what's going on, and you're like, oh, like I almost felt guilty for judging him so harshly in the beginning, because I'm surprised he's even talking at this point. And so many little things that you saw throughout the series make sense. One of the things I know I had mentioned to you was, why would anyone carry around a guitar that they can't play? Because the first thing he asked the romantic protagonist is, can you teach me? And I'm thinking, why does he have a guitar if he doesn't know how to play it? And then you realize, because this is the last thing he has from his now passed on partner. Holy crap, that broke me. When I put those pieces together, insane. It was too much.
I am interested to see how the series handles it now that everything's out in the open, because we got our first kiss between protagonists as well. And it was an interesting but also weird scene, because he's like having this emotional breakdown after singing the song, and he's crying, and they go off stage to the chagrin of long-haired guy.
He's like, we have more songs.
And they go down into the stairwell, and Ritsuka's protagonist, he kisses him while he's, crying and dealing with all these emotions. And then he's like, I'm going to go back out on the stage, and just leaves him there.
Yeah.
And part of me is like, well, shouldn't you be there for him because he needs somebody in that moment? But part of me is also like, this was something he reached kind of on his own. with push, like a little pushing to write the lyrics and things like that. But he had to reach that on his own, and kind of dealing with it on his own is the healthiest way to do it to a degree for him, because it's a hurdle within him that he needs to get over.
Yeah.
He needs to get over the guilt. And no matter how many books you read, shows you watch, things that other people say to you, it's a thing that you need, it's a switch you need to flip in yourself.
Yeah.
You need to move past the guilt, and you need to conceptualize, not forget, but conceptualize those feelings that you had that are holding you back and move past them. So giving him that decompression moment, maybe that was the best thing for him to sit there and realize and go, I'm having fun. Like, I love him.
I definitely see that, and I definitely, like, he has to give him his moment, his time. But I also feel like there's something to be said about picking your moments, because, like you said, he comes off for the first time singing, like not only singing but singing publicly about a song that he's been writing, that you actually learn if you watch like the little mini after credits part, has been on his mind since he was dating his past boyfriend, and all this emotion, all these things that's built up, all these ideas that he's been having difficulty processing have come out. So right after the song, he's so emotionally and mentally raw. He's just processing, like, I'm finally taking my first steps to move past this. And in the midst of him kind of moving past it, saying, hey, I thank you for that, boom, kiss.
Yeah.
It's like, not right now. Give him 2 seconds to get past this part, then kiss him all you like.
Yeah, I think two separate issues. I think him leaving him there to decompress might have been okay for the reasons that I said.
Yeah.
The kiss in the first place is different because, I would imagine this is the start of their relationship to a degree, and starting it off on that foot where he was so emotionally raw and vulnerable is one of those things where it's like, was he really ready?
Yeah.
Like
he was processing.
Yeah, he just kind of pushed past some of these feelings. And when you push past some of those feelings, I feel like there's a moment where I've had all this stuff built up inside of me and I've been holding it. And in a way, like, that is the thing that's been within me that's been holding me up as a human being. Like, I didn't need a relationship or anything because I had what I was holding on to from a previous relationship. And he just kind of let it go in that moment. And he's going to, in that moment, feel empty.
Yeah.
So immediately having somebody else going like, I'll fill that spiritually and metaphysically and physically, I'll fill that. Of course, he's going to latch onto that. And that's not a healthy moment to latch onto somebody.
It's a lot to process. It's a lot. And I think, again, in terms of like being lost in the moment of the story, it was great, obviously. But in terms of trying to stay conscious of what Mafiu's feeling, it is definitely a lot to go through. I mean, I know I definitely screamed when I saw them kiss. I was very excited, and I know I was like, oh my God, they finally kissed. But even I myself afterwards processed it. I was like, there might have been a better moment. There might have been a little better moment to have their first kiss, and like their very big proclamation, like hardcore, very clear proclamation of love towards each other.
And you have that moment afterwards where he's sitting and he's like, I am having fun and this whole thing. And I don't feel lonely.
Yes.
And
he doesn't feel bad about it.
Yeah. And that would be a slightly healthier thing for him to say if he didn't just get the kiss from the protagonist, because then it's like, oh, I'm not lonely because I have somebody else.
Exactly.
And that's the most unhealthy way to do that, because it's like you didn't get a chance to be by yourself. Even though he's been alone, he hasn't officially been alone because he never let it go.
Yeah.
And that moment where he would have a chance to just take comfort in a friend and try and understand if he was lonely as a human being with friends, existing as an individual, not as part of a couple.
Yeah.
He doesn't get that chance because he immediately is now in a romantic something with the other guy.
I will say to be my own main counterpoint as well, is I also understand where the Ritsuka is coming from, because he's always been dealing with all these emotions for Mafiu this entire time, trying to really process what it means that he likes him, that everything else, how's he going to do it. He's so nervous and he doesn't give him anything. To be on that side of wanting to kind of throw yourself into someone and they're not giving you anything to kind of work off of can be maddening. Absolutely. Yeah. So now they have this moment where he shows that he does have emotions. He has these deep seated emotions, and they've just been bubbling this whole time and haven't just come like spilling out of him and everything else. And they take him away because he's like, okay, he needs a moment. And to be just so now in his mind emotionally close to him because he's finally shown what he's been thinking, I can understand why he can't help himself. Just I gotta kiss him. Like I love this guy. I need to show my affection because I can't. And I can get that too, because it's the culmination of what you've been hoping for this entire time finally coming true and kind of coming to fruition. Like, okay, this guy I care about can show that he's filled with these emotions. Granted, they're very very deep, personal, painful emotions, but they're there. And now he understands why. Now, for him as well, just like for me, the pieces kind of came together. It's like, I get it. I understand.
He had his own little emotional journey that he was dealing with.
Absolutely.
Because he was dealing with subconsciously, because he wasn't really voicing it in even his subconscious, like his inner thoughts when he would talk about it, but he was angry at him. He was angry at Mafiu. Why can't I say his name? But he was angry at him, and it kept coming out as little snappy moments where he was saying like, why aren't you practicing? Like, why aren't you getting better? Why aren't you getting this? And then culminating at the end of episode 8 when he like comes at him and like the string breaks. And there's that moment that it ends on, and then the next episode starts in that same scene.
Yeah.
And there is all of these emotions that he's building up. And he had, to a degree, a reluctance for him to sing the song because he's like, I know, now that I know his past, I heard the rumors, all this stuff, he's going to sing about this guy that he loved and lost.
Crazy.
Yeah. And I know he's going to sing about that, and I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear all of those things because I'm in love with him.
It's the unfortunate, selfish side, I think, of loving somebody, where if you know that they're still so emotionally distraught over their past person, to kind of process that their past person, even if they're with you and they love you, still in such a way has such a hold on them, is something you can't compete with. But I think, it's, and again, this is what I did like about this anime. They go over these ideas of love, emotions, mental health beyond being a BL anime. Again, compared to Love Stage, this is a completely different level. Like, this is insane.
I'm very glad you made that segue because I was about to segue back and I was going to feel bad about it. But there's several times in Love Stage where Ryoma has this thing where he views people as rivals. Mm-hmm. And after the debut press conference of Izumi, he's like, the whole world is my rival, this whole kind of thing. And it's handled a lot lighter. It's handled in a way where it's like, these people are rivals, but they're not really rivals.
It's fine.
They don't know him the way that I do, this whole thing. But like, there is that aspect. In this, if your rival is somebody who's dead, they're not your rival. You can't...
Well, logistically, they're not your rival.
Yeah.
But emotionally, you can do the mental gymnastics to say even more reason why, because they're dead, they're always going to be there.
They're always going to be there.
There's no amount of moving away from them. There's no amount of, that's not like they're always.
They're never going to do something that's going to screw up the relationship to get them out of there.
They have that place there, and it's up to that person to find the strength to not forget them, but to process it and to move forward. And that's like the culmination of episode 9, which is why I very much wanted you to see that one, because that's like where, again, it all comes together.
Yeah, we actually watched it together so Miguel could watch my reactions, my dabbing of the corner of my eye. Like, I refuse to let it run down my cheek.
I definitely, like I said, I've seen that episode and that scene specifically so many times. I'm happy to say I didn't cry this time, but I definitely got teary-eyed because the lyrics, and we're going to get to that part just for a moment, the lyrics and the way there's so many good lines in this anime are mind-blowing. My favorite heartbreaking line from the song is, I have it here in front of me, something along the lines of, what do you do when your everything has lost its tomorrow? Holy crap. Like, and this is a BL anime, and it's making me like think and process things like this. Like, it's beyond me, like just how good that one line was.
There are some moments from, and I don't know what chapter they're going to get up to when they have the adaptation in April for Whispering You a Love Song, which is the reigning Yuri manga that I like the most currently, and it's actually getting adapted. And that's a lot about a band too, where the main character ends up like falling in love at first sight when she hears the other main character sing for the first time. And there's this whole conversation about what does that love mean? Like, she says it, she immediately confesses it to the girl, and she's like, I heard you sing and I fell in love at first sight. But the way that she meant it was like admiration. You're my senpai. You're like, it's amazing your talent. Like, I'm a huge fan, that whole thing. And that's what she meant it like. But the other girl thinks that she means it romantically, and she also fell in love with the girl at first sight, but in a romantic sense. And it wasn't because of her talent or anything. It was because of how adorable she was when she smiled at her, and how she approached her and like complimented her, and like how nice she was. And so she fell in love with her as a person. The other person fell in love with her as a performer. And there's this whole dichotomy with that. And there's a couple of songs that get sung throughout the manga, and obviously I don't get to hear the music, but I can read them, and they have a lot of impact. And I'm interested to see how they get adapted, if it's adapted like Given, because I feel like it wouldn't have had the same impact, honestly, if we had watched it and it was adapted in English, because I feel like the songs never quite adapt properly.
Which is why I'm happy, because there are some animes exactly where they adapt the poignant song in English and it loses that because you're kind of forcing words to kind of hit the lyrics, forcing the words to kind of maybe rhyme. Sometimes they don't even rhyme at all.
Yeah. They're trying to make them rhyme. They're trying to make them hit the, like, arrange so they fit the music, and like it doesn't really. They
translate them word for word and it doesn't work in English. There are a lot of YouTubers that I've seen who do music covers of Japanese songs in English, but they do the exact translation, and I feel like somebody should tell them it doesn't work. Like, I appreciate your effort, but it doesn't hit the same way. This song, I'm happy that both in the English dub and in the sub version, they keep the song in Japanese, because the emotion that comes through, the lip flaps, everything else, it's that one scene I always have in my head, and I know I was like when we watched it, was when they do a close-up of Mafu's face, and he has the part to it, and just like his hair's falling over his face,
like
and
sweat.
Sweat. You feel that emotion, not just like that the physical toll it takes on him to kind of sing and perform a song, which I imagine performing does take, but the emotional toll that all of this has been leading up to, you see it all in that one shot, and it's
the performance is done really well. My only complaint would probably be when they do the wide shots, when they're like from above the crowd. They're CGI models. And I'm sure that was a cost thing, because the rest of it was probably really expensive with the music and all that stuff. So like doing those wide shots, you can see they have like the janky CGI movement. Whatever. That's just because I review anime for like a good chunk of my day. But beyond that, like the emotion was really there. And big time. I think, jumping back to the kiss real quick, they managed to work in the same trope that we talked about, the stolen first kiss. Every one of them does it. And because it never becomes a consensual kiss while they're kissing, he keeps his eyes open the whole time.
But, and I feel horrible trying to defend a non-consensual kiss, but I will say, leading up to that kiss, Mafu was talking about how much he cares for him, how thankful he is for him, how he means so much to him, how he's helped him get here. So it's not crazy to think this guy loves me. So while it's
I don't think so either.
Consensual kiss, they were on the same page, just one jumped the gun a bit, as opposed to other things that we've seen, like in Love Stage, where there's no same page at all. It's like, I'm just gonna do this now, okay? You're good with that? Oh wait, you're not awake? That's fine.
They don't get to the same page until like episode 8 or 9.
Oh my god, which is insane. But this kiss, it's a stolen first kiss, but I think it was very well done.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it was on the same level as other ones that I've seen, where I think that he was in a raw emotional state as well, because as we were talking about, he went through his own emotional journey.
Yes.
When he breaks that string and then he runs to the music store, which, just complaining for a second, they're at an organized Battle of the Bands performance or whatever.
Mad about that.
And nobody has any extra guitar strings. He has to run across the city to a music store.
Jeremy, don't you know that all guitars have only enough strings for their actual guitar and no backups? Like, if somebody's string breaks, you're done.
You're done. Your band's not performing anymore.
Imagine how the Super Bowl. Imagine someone's at Super Bowl, all of a sudden their string breaks. Like, oh, cancel Super Bowl mid-show. We're done. That's it.
Oh, the ball pops. We don't have any extra balls. I'm sorry.
That's it. We're no more. Everybody go home.
But whatever. He got his moment where he got to run it out and do the effort of running across the city, and then we get the train coming across like every anime ever. But in that moment, I can understand why he did it. Like, somebody's got to initiate it eventually. Like, there is no real. I mean, I guess you have that moment sometimes where it's like, oh, at the end of the date, you both are looking at each other and you're leaning in simultaneously. But how often does that actually happen? Normally, it's like somebody leans in for a kiss and you get the kiss. The kiss happens. It's either shared or it's the person stands there with their eyes open. And
the person leans back, says no. Yeah. And go, oh, I'm sorry. And then you move on.
But in this, it was another thing where it was like he was shocked more than anything, and he never really ended up sharing the kiss. Yeah. And I'm sure we'll get a legit first kiss probably in the next episode. There's
a lot of stuff coming in the next few episodes. Yeah. I mean, it's not going to. Hold on, I don't want to like set your expectations wrong, but I will say, there's going to be a lot more stuff coming in the next few episodes, but this kind of episode 9 was the one that like a lot of things just come together, and it's like, oh wow, this is it.
There's also 9 volumes to this manga, meaning we're probably only getting the first 3 adapted. And by the end of the season, there's 6 volumes that weren't adapted, most likely.
So in most average animes, when you have like a anime like there's like 11 episodes, how many volumes of the manga would that normally be?
It's typically like a chapter per episode.
Okay.
Sometimes a little bit more, a little bit less. But
how many chapters are in one volume of a manga?
4 typically. Sometimes I'll have 5, but typically 4.
Okay.
So if you're looking at a 11 or 12 episode show, you're typically looking at 3 volumes because it's like an episode per chapter, and then there's a little fudging.
How many mangas are there for One Piece then?
A lot. There's thousands upon thousands of
Holy
chapters.
crap.
Yeah.
Like I know it's a long anime, but
Yeah.
now that you're telling me in these terms, that's a lot.
It is counterbalanced. It is counterbalanced because there's filler in One Piece. There's stuff that doesn't happen in the manga, and so there's a lot of content that makes episodes that's not actually from the source material.
Okay.
So it's not like there's 4,000 manga chapters versus 1,000 anime thing. It doesn't.
Okay, it's not an
balance out
exact.
the same way.
Okay,
No.
okay.
But for long running shonen, there's a lot of filler. Like Boruto is like half filler. So. But in something like this, there's not typically enough to make a lot of filler stuff. Like, there's not a lot to it. It's not an expansive enough world. Like, yeah, they could do a filler episode where they go to the mall.
Yeah.
But that episode can impact the plot. And when you're trying to keep an emotional thread, you can't have
You can't have those
a
filler
one
episodes,
season thing where it's a filler episode.
They were not going to have a beach episode where nothing gets resolved or done nothing like this.
I always complain about it with Spy Family because in Spy Family, 75% of the episodes seem like filler episodes,
Really?
but they're all source material. There's
Wow.
very little filler in Spy Family, but so many of the episodes seem like filler because they don't impact each other at all.
I
But
started if I haven't gone back since I'll get
it
back
has
into
its up and downs. You can just watch our reviews.
Oh, yeah. Can you link me there by any chance?
Yeah, I think I can do that.
All right, thanks.
But
Would it be on screen right now?
yeah, probably.
Awesome.
When I don't know, do you have? We're probably coming to the end of this conversation. We just talked about the stolen first kiss.
Yeah.
The half stolen first kiss. Do you have an anime first kiss that is something that you think about that as your comparison? Like, if you were to see something like that now, if you were to like watch Given, unless that's your kiss, but if you were to watch the first kiss between two characters that you kind of compare it to,
I don't think I'd be able to compare it because in the animes that I've seen, and again, in my very limited experience of it, there isn't ever a ton of emotional ties to things. And if they are, they're not probably the best setup for them. Again, we have just going off a love stage, love stage was just, nope, not the same thing. And then Yuri and Ice never actually delivers, so we can't count that. We can get into Skate the Infinity today, which I really hope we do because that's another great one. Did you watch Skate the Infinity? Oh man,
I'll watch it though.
Oh, so good. Like visually amazing.
It's about skating?
Yeah,
Ice skating or rollerblading?
Skateboarding.
Skateboarding.
Yes. With BL dashes in it and probably more kind of teasing than Yuri on Ice, but at least they're not they don't imply it as much. It's just like, oh, I see where you're going. But they're like, I'm
picking up what you're putting down.
Exactly, yeah. So, but it's definitely much more like we're just best friends, and they just stare at each other longly, but I really care about you. Like, oh, So, but visually, Skate Infinity is amazing. But again, there's nothing there. And then I think of like other animes, and I don't think there's ever been like a big kiss moment. Like even when there's like a implication of potentially some romance, it doesn't ever pay off. Like Gundam Wing, you think Hero and whatever her name was from before, I don't think they
Hero and girl.
Yes, Hero and girl. I don't think they ever kissed, and if they did, it was forgettable.
So I'm gonna say mine.
Yes,
mine, and people might say I'm lame, but my anime first kiss that I compare every other first kiss that I see in anime to is from Inuyasha, and it's not even from the series; it's from the movie.
Oh,
because they don't kiss until the movie, and there is a moment. Spoilers for this anime that's been out for a very long time.
I've never seen Inuyasha.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend.
I know of it.
I wouldn't recommend sitting through it at this point because there's so much out there and it's long. And then there was like a big layoff. There was a lot of filler. It was like whatever. I never ended up watching the second series, but that was supposed to be sticking to the manga. But there's this principle in there that Inuyasha is a half demon.
Yes.
And he during the new moon or the full moon, Probably the full moon.
During the moon thing.
Yeah, during one of the moons. One of the moons he turns human, one of the moons he turns demon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think it's the full moon he probably turns demon. It makes sense. But he goes crazy. Like, he gets wild. He has, like, the claws, and, like, sometimes it'll happen in battle, but blah. In the movie, he goes full demon.
Okay.
I don't remember the context around it. He was fighting something. And he's losing control of himself, and Kagome gets scared, and she
This is the girl.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she comes up, and she, like, grabs him, and he's, like, thrashing his arms and, like, has his, like, teeth out and everything, and she kisses him, and she originally kisses his teeth because he has his big,
he's like snarly
big demon teeth out. And then it turns into a kiss, and he turns back into his half demon form.
Oh, so she's more powerful than the moon.
Yeah, I have a distinct memory of this because Inuyasha was one of my formative animes when I started getting into it. I said in I think the first episode that it was the first one that I watched illegally, but and to this day that is still the scene that I compare all first kisses in anime to. Is that she used it as a way to try and pull him out of it, but then after he turned back, it stayed. Like, he shared it with her, and they had that moment. And I mean, technically it's not canon because it was in the movie, but whatever. That was the first exposure that we get to it. So whenever
She does kiss his teeth.
What?
She does kiss his teeth.
She does. She kisses his teeth.
It's weird.
But to this day, that's what I always compare. Every time I see two characters kiss for the first time, I'm like, does it make me feel the way that it made me feel when I saw Kagome and Inuyasha kiss for the first time?
So this was your favorite kiss of all time, and now it's given.
No.
You can admit if it's given. Okay. I wouldn't blame you. It's fine.
I don't think Given's my favorite. It's up there, though.
Well, because I'm trying, now you got me thinking, and I don't think there's been other animes where I've seen the main characters kiss in a romantic sense that hasn't been highly inappropriate, problematic, or has been like still like, whoops, we kiss kind of thing. Like, I think maybe
they get all red and run away from each other.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, and like, again, I've seen some various animes, but I think my frame of reference is still too small. Like, I'm thinking, did they kiss in Death Note? If they did, I don't think it was ever like a big thing, but maybe they did.
Light and
Misa.
Misa. I mean, that wouldn't have meant anything.
Exactly, that wouldn't have meant anything. So I'm like, okay, that doesn't count. And then I'm like, I don't think they. Maybe in flashbacks they kiss and Kawi, but it wasn't like a build up kind of like first kiss. So okay, that doesn't count. And then I think like I'm excited for maybe the first kiss in Quintessential Quintuplets, which I have yet to watch the movie on. So I have to kind of see that. And I don't think there was any major first kisses in Miss Kobayashi. Yeah, I don't think I've seen, because again, I don't see that many like romantic animes.
I mean, Inuyasha's a shonen anime, so it's geared around action, but
they have a strong romantic part to it.
Well, because the main character, even though she's not the titular character, the main character is Kagome. Like, she's the protagonist of the show.
Even though it's called Inuyasha.
Even though it's called Inuyasha.
Okay.
She's the protagonist. And so it has some of those shoujo elements in a shonen
setting.
Yeah.
Okay. So then my official favorite first kiss in an anime, it goes to Given. And it will be Given until I see something that can that can just overcome that, because
that'll be your threshold from now on.
This is my Kagome Inuyasha kiss. Like, this is it.
Good. So I am interested to see if we ever have you watch something, or we ever stumble across another anime that supplants that.
What's a good romance anime then? And I look around just to get inspiration from what you have.
Probably not going to find anything around here, but
like even something like Sailor Moon, which is obviously very romantic a lot of times, even though it's like a fighting girl, it's romantic. You just knew they were going to kiss at some point, and it wasn't like, oh, finally they kissed, but more like, oh my god, finally you guys kissed. It wasn't like, it was like,
yeah,
fudge it, we're done now. Let's move forward.
I mean, we're currently watching Hokkaido Girls, which is romance.
Oh man,
and we're also watching.
If anyone kisses on that, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Me and Elaine are watching Sign of Affection. I feel like Sign of Affection might get to a point where it's going to be a good moment when they finally kiss, because there's a lot of build up and a lot of emotional weight that'll be behind it. And I'm excited to see where that one goes. I'm actually not updated on that. There's one episode that's out that I haven't seen.
I can give you first or stolen kiss stuff from not anime. I can do that. But
what would that be?
well, one that comes to mind right now is going to be so a little more peeking to me and my taste. I've seen all of Vampire Diaries, the originals and legacies. I think the first time that we saw in Vampire Diaries Elena and Damon kiss, that was a big one. That was like a because you knew it was coming, you knew it was there. All the pieces were there, just like leading up to, but then to actually see it come together, wasn't specifically a stolen first kiss, but it was like, fuck yeah, they did it, finally. That was the part that I was definitely very excited for.
So I mean that could still be the one you compare it to. It doesn't have to be
No,
anime.
because that again, like that was one that like you were excited for because in the drama of it. This obviously given was dramatic as well, but there's just something different because, like I said, we're gonna go by the prerequisites you've stated, which would be the stolen first kiss or the first kiss, something like that. Then I feel like this has a different connotation to it. So, and there's a lot of stuff in the Vampire Diaries scene that taints it a little bit. This is not a Vampire Diaries package, go somewhere else for that. But I will say, given definitely is still gonna be my standard right now.
Outside of anime, there's the one from Friends when they show the home video of Ross on the night of Monica and Rachel's prom. And they show the video of him getting ready because like,
and then Rachel turns to him.
And she turns to him, and goes across the room and kisses him.
Yeah,
that was a good moment.
That was cute.
And there's a lot of like stupid stuff in Friends too, but that moment is one that sticks with me.
Hey, whenever you want to do Friends trivia, I got you.
I don't know if I could hang with it. I mean, maybe I watched a lot of Friends.
I literally have gone to a bar and done Friends trivia. So yeah,
okay, that is something we could do. And I think we'll put a bow on it there from our updated Boy Love episode with Given and Love Stage. We both recommend both these series. They're different tones. I think we've expressed that at this point, but I recommend both of them. I've enjoyed them.
I think we're gonna kind of spin it back on me for some bonus homework. I have to take a look at the what is it? I want to say Gin Blossoms. It's not Gin Blossoms. Your Yuri ones. What are they called?
Bloom Into You,
and Citrus. Maybe I'll do that and I'll come back and we'll discuss that. It's like we have now our BL episode, now we have our GL episode and go from there.
And you can definitely look forward to me doing content on Whispering You a Love Song going forward, at the very least, because I'm really hyped for that to get adapted. I can't wait. It's the only Yuri manga that I'm actually reading as it's coming out.
You gotta give me more romance animes, man. I gotta have something to compare this stuff to.
I don't watch that many romance animes, honestly. Until recently.
We'll do research and we'll both watch some romance animes.
We'll have some more romance.
It can't all be Dragon Ball Z, Jeremy. Come on.
That is true. It is a formative anime, though. And there's a lot of BL tension between a lot of those characters.
You want to talk about BL? The underlying tones of Gundam Wing. Oh man, holy crap! But
what's the beach scene? Is it from Top Gun? When they the original Top Gun, when they're all talking about like how homoerotic it was.
It is.
It's like I get that same energy from a lot of the Gundam stuff,
and it definitely does. And you know what? You could say, "Oh no, you're wrong." You could say it's wrong, but just because you see a tomato doesn't mean it's just a tomato. It could also be early tomato sauce. It could be pre-ketchup. I mean, it doesn't mean it's not those things. It's just how you want to see it. And Top Gun, Gundam Wing definitely fit that criteria.
Well, something that we hope fits your criteria is this podcast content here on the channel. I am the king of segues. Sometimes Elaine tries to steal my segues, but I always try to be creative when I attach them.
Well, speaking of segues, what should they do, the listeners?
They should like, comment, and subscribe. But I have a way of saying it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You like the video if you like it.
Yep.
Comment down below. What was your favorite anime kiss that you compare everything to?
Yes. Or if you don't have a favorite one right now, recommend some romance animes. You can kind of put those on the list.
Absolutely. We will be looking more into that content going forward because I've gotten into it recently when I was very opposed to it for a while. So I'm enjoying my journey into that genre. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of this content going forward, and ring that bell so you know what's up. And me and Miguel will see you next time.
All right. Take care. Bye.